Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the council meeting for the 7th of September 2021. Firstly, I need to do the councillor roll.
Okay, folks, we've just lost the mayor. All of us were just commenting as we started this meeting. Perhaps the wind. We're all having a few internet trouble. We just might give the mayor a couple of minutes and allow him to patch back in again. We're in no great. If councillors are happy with that, Deputy Mayor, if the mayor can't patch in, we're going to have to hand over to you to conduct the meeting. So if councillors are happy, we'll just give the mayor a minute or two to patch back in.
Yeah.
I can see you there. Are you there, Mayor? Your head's just popped back in.
Sorry.
No, don't apologise. We're just commenting that all of us have had a few technical issues today. It must be perhaps the wind.
No, I don't think so. No, I think it may well be me, Mr. CEO. Look, welcome to the 7th of September 2021 council meeting. And before we start, we are required to have the councillor roll call. So, councillors, could you just acknowledge that you can see me and hear me? So, I'll start with Councillor Ripper.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor McKenzie.
I can hear and see you, Mayor.
Councillor Crosley.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Marr.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Bye.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Tatterson.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mayor.
And Councillor Rossetti.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is the council meeting information, and due to ongoing COVID-19 restrictions, the Minister's Good Practice Guideline MGPG1 virtual meetings issued by the Minister for Local Government continue to apply. Pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020, these guidelines ensure that local government decision making can continue in line with COVID-19 restrictions, and further details can be found on the Local Government Victoria website. These guidelines took effect from the 1st of May 2020 and will remain in place through to 26th of April 2022. While members of the public cannot attend this meeting in person, we have provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our council meetings page on the Wellington Shire Council website. You are able to interact with council in two ways. Email a specific question or comment relating to a particular council agenda item no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the council meeting, or for general questions to council via the online web form early in this meeting to ensure that your questions can be dealt with at the end of this meeting. While we maintain a virtual way of gathering, we thank you for your ongoing support. Next, we have the Acknowledgement of Country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai Kurnai people, and pay respects to the elders past and present. Now the prayer. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Next, there is apologies, and we have no apologies for today's meeting. Next item is declaration of conflicts of interest. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest for today's meeting. Is that correct, councillors? Yes, I'll accept that. Next item is the confirmation of the minutes of previous council meeting. I'd just like the council to move the adoption of the minutes, please.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Please proceed.
I move that council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of August the 17th, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? If not, I'll declare it carried. Nothing to add, Councillor Wood?
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. The next item is business arising from previous meetings. There's no currently any business arising that I'm aware of. Next item is acceptance of late and urgent items.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, that was, who was that? Councillor Rossetti.
I move that we accept the late item being item 14.1, draft marine and coastal strategy submission.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Is there any opposition to the acceptance of the late item? If not, I'll declare that duly accepted. Now, it's normal practice, of course, to deal with a late item at this stage of business. So, is there a councillor that would like to move a motion to adopt the recommendation relating to the draft marine and coastal strategy submission?
Councillor Marr is happy to move that.
Yeah, please proceed, Councillor Marr.
I move that Council endorse the attached submission to the draft marine and coastal strategy.
Thank you. Do I have a
Councillor Crossley is happy to second that motion.
Councillor Crossley, thank you, Councillor Crossley. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? No, if not, I'll declare it carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor, and I thank you and councillors for this late submission item. This submission is in response to the draft Marine and Coastal Strategy 2021, which sets out the priority of actions to achieve the Marine and Coastal Policy of 2020, which is in turn meeting the mandate set out in the Marine and Coastal Act of 2018. Council certainly welcomes the draft strategy, which has been eagerly anticipated, particularly as it sets out, it meets our own priorities as set out in the draft council plan of 2021 to 2025. This is the first strategy released, with subsequent reviews being undertaken every 5 years for the next 15 years. The strategy is an important step, and it's hoped that it will provide a statewide consistent approach to coastal impacts and a uniform response and adaptation required by coastal shires across the whole of Victoria. An important part of this strategy is our community conversations that will have to include a strong education focus of our communities. This in turn leads to ensuring adequate resourcing and funding that's available to manage these actions into the future, particularly as 76% of the strategic actions include local government involvement. The vision of the policy is for a healthy, dynamic and biodiverse marine and coastal environment that is valued in its own right and benefits the Victorian community now and into the future. This strategy provides the actions to achieve this from the policy. We need to ensure that our communities, including our built infrastructure and assets, are as resilient as they can be in the face of future climate change impacts. Moving forward with the C99 amendment that will update flood mapping across the Wellington Shire, we need to ensure that there is certainty and a confidence of adaptation. I'd also like to extend a thank you to Barry and Alex, our strategic planners, for their work undertaken in putting this submission together along with councillors, and we all certainly look forward to some positive outcomes into the future once this strategy is released. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marr. Moving on to item 6 is the notices of motion. There are no current notices of motion. Item 7 is the receiving of petitions or joint letters. There are no current or outstanding petitions at this time. Item 8 is invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. It was suggested that I might make some brief comments, and I'd just like to, particularly at this stage, thank our staff for a recent social media post that a number of the staff have put on relating to resilience and trying to maintain our health in these difficult times. I mean, we're currently now beating Melbourne because they're still in lockdown 6. We're now up to lockdown 7, and hopefully, whilst there might be some movement afoot for things to be eased up, we have basically, as a council, and I'd just like to say to the CEO and the staff, the councils are very grateful for the work that they continue to do to try and maintain services as best as possible in these difficult times. I'd also just like to acknowledge the fact that many of our small businesses are doing it extremely tough at this time. We've been talking about the problems we've got with trying to maintain the council, but I would suggest that if you're trying to maintain a small business, and I was particularly, a food business, they were effectively shut down with about 2 hours' notice in this latest lockdown. I really don't know, how they managed to do that. It was particularly frustrating, I think, for such short notice. We were trying to run the Yarram and Stedford, and we knew that there was a potential lockdown. We thought we would have at least the rest of the day, and it came over. We had effectively 2 hours, and so if you were about to serve lunch in your local hotel or your local restaurant or your local cafe, it would have been just, I think, the straw that broke the camel's back to have to close down so quickly. I've had a conversation with a gentleman from an accommodation place, and he was pointing out to me just how difficult it has been for accommodation businesses to try and survive in these times, because other businesses can turn around with a short spread of time and reopen. He made the observation that if a lockdown finishes tomorrow, it's going to be incredibly difficult for them, because they're not going to get any more probably visitors for at least maybe another fortnight after a lockdown. And so I'd like to acknowledge that a lot of our accommodation places are clearly also doing it very, very tough. And I'd just like to finish this short commentary by saying to everyone, I'd just like to echo the views of the Premier, and I think just about everyone else. Please, I would encourage everyone to go and get vaccinated. It's really encouraging to see that. It's encouraging to see that many people are now taking heed of that warning, and we're starting to see the trending of vaccinations heading upwards. But I think there's still opportunities in both. I know Yarram and certainly Sale at Ingle Street Medical Centre and the GRSC for people to go and get vaccinated. So if everyone please take that heed. I'm going to get photographic proof, councillors, that I've had my second shot on Friday. So hopefully I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm hopefully helping to lead the way. But yes, thank you again, one and all. I hope that we have more positive news in the near future. But all we can try and do is hang in there as best we can. And if anyone feels they need help, well, please contact family or friends. Talk through any issues you've got, because we're all in the same boat together. It's not quite as hard. I'm just particularly glad that I no longer run a small business, because I think that would be immensely difficult in this trying time. But please, if you need any assistance, go and talk to someone. And talk through any issues you've got. So thank you, councillors, for giving me the time to just talk about that. And I'll move on to the next item, which is questions on notice. There are no questions on notice at this stage. Delegates reports. I believe Councillor Mackenzie might have a delegates report from Star of the South. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. My report is in respect to Star of the South, which is one step closer to developing Australia's first wind farm here in Wellington, Gippsland. On September 2, Australia's first offshore wind project became one step closer to fruition, thanks to the Australian government introducing the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill, supported by Minister Taylor and the federal government. The introduction of this bill will go a long way with assisting to reduce regulatory barriers, enabling ongoing investment from the project's partners and securing jobs for Wellington and Latrobe Valley. This important legislation will enable clean energy projects to be built and operated off Australia's coast, and there are exciting times for Wellington, with not only Star of the South already doing preliminary studies, another wind farm organisation, Consultation Energy, who are also looking to develop an offshore wind farm off Sea Spray, which will make our shire the offshore electricity hub in Victoria and the first in Australia. The bill will help provide up to 2.2 gigawatts of power for Victorian homes and represents a strong economic opportunity for Australia, with modellings demonstrating an estimated 3,000 direct jobs and more than 10 billion of wider economic benefits, primarily in regional Australia. A quote from the Star of the South CEO, Casper Frost-Forherg, is as follows. We welcome the introduction of the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill to the Australian Parliament and acknowledge the work of Minister Taylor and the Commonwealth Government in prioritising this important legislation. We will look at the bill in detail to understand what it means for developing Star of the South off the coast of Gippsland. This legislation is a key step to realising Australia's offshore wind potential and unlocking the associated economic benefits, including providing opportunities for the nation's strong resources and marine sectors. We are excited to help Australia's offshore wind industry and continue Gippsland's proud history of power generation into the future, supporting new local jobs and transitioning skills. Mayor, the announcement of the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill by Minister Taylor is a strong commitment that Wellington will be part of the renewable world well into the future, and with Star of the South seeing Wellington as the renewable hub for Gippsland. A congratulations to Star of the South, and look forward to work with them and make this dream a reality. Wellington proud. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Mackenzie, and it's really excellent news that the federal bill has been introduced into Parliament, and that hopefully we'll get the whole process well and truly running. Thank you. Moving on to item 11. Item 11.1 is Assembly of Councillors. There's a recommendation there.
Happy to move that, Mayor. Councillor Bye.
Yes,
I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Council record for the period 9th of August 2021 to the 29th of August 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Ripper, I'll second that.
Councillor Ripper. Thank you, Councillor Ripper. I heard you. Please. Thank you for the seconding. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? No, if not, I'll declare it carried. Councillor Bye.
Happy with that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Now, the next item is a 11.2, the process to initiate the reappointment of the Chief Executive Officer.
Happy to move that, Mayor.
Mayor, just before that happens, it's appropriate for me perhaps to leave the meeting at this stage while councillors consider that item. So I'll leave the meeting completely and leave General Manager Corporate Services Arthur Skipataris in my seat, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Council, just wait for a moment while the CEO leaves the meeting. I think the CEO may have gone. Has he, Mr. Corporate Services General Manager?
Yes.
Oh, he's left the meeting? Yes, excellent. Thank you. So now this is item 11.2. I would just like someone to move the recommendation.
I'm happy to move that.
Please proceed, Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually take great pleasure in moving that, one, in accordance with Section 94(4) of the Local Government Act 1989, Council placed a public notice in the Gippsland Times and on Council's website on the 14th of September 2021 to advise that at the ordinary meeting of Wellington Shire Council scheduled for Tuesday the 5th of October 2021, a motion will be put that, if passed, would result in the reappointment of Mr David Morecambe as Council's Chief Executive Officer without the position being advertised, and 2, reappointment of Mr David Morecambe as Council's Chief Executive Officer is to be subject to the satisfactory negotiation of a contract.
Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Do I have a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Marr. Thank you, Councillor Marr. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? Now, if not, I'll declare it carried. Councillor Crossley.
Just a few words. Thank you, Mayor. This motion is to reappoint is because the current contract of this CEO is due to expire in 6 months, and we are duty bound to either advertise to say that we are either reappointing or that we're advertising to put out and find a new CEO. As a council, we have every confidence and believe that the CEO, David Morecambe, has been doing a great job, and we have great confidence that he'll be able to lead his staff and the team very well into the future. He's shown great skill in meeting the various challenges we've had, both environmental, job losses, and external misadventures like the COVID-19, and also in meeting and grasping challenges, opportunities that have come our way over the past, and we feel that he will have that ability to lead into the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Crossley. Look, I'd just like to endorse your comments and note that that there's an excellent, if not outstanding, working relationship between our CEO, our general managers, and our council. And I think that this proposal, on the basis that we proceed, will allow us to continue to provide great service to our community in the Wellington Shire, and particularly, yes, as you just commented and I said earlier, in these strange and rather unusual times. So thank you very much, Councillor. We'll now move on. I suppose we now need to get the CEO back into the meeting, Mr. Corporate Services.
I've just texted him to come back in, Mayor, so you might want to give him a minute or so.
Yes. He might have shot through. Oh, there he is.
Oh, it's very quick. There you go.
He didn't want to. He didn't want to leave us without the benefit of his astute advice and oversight, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor.
With us?
I am, Mayor. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you very much. We have. Just for your information, we have adopted that recommendation, so you'll just so you know.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors.
Item 12.1 is the next item on the agenda, the York Street Revitalisation Project. A mover for that.
Happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tatterson. Do I have a seconder? Oh, you're going to move it first.
Yep.
Sorry, proceed.
All right, thank you. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2022-010, York Street Streetscape Renewal Works, and the information contained in the confidential attachment contract 22-2022-010, York Street Streetscape Renewal Works, Southern, and designated confidential under Section 3(1) Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager Built and Natural Environment on August the 16th, 2021, because it relates to the following grounds. Private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertakings to a disadvantage. Be designated as confidential under Section 3.1 of the Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2020, except that once the recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tenderer can be made public.
Thank you, Councillor Tatterson. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that, Mayor. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? If not, I'm pleased to declare it carried. Just before I invite you to say anything, Councillor Tatterson, I'd just like to announce that the successful tenderer for this contract is J.W. Volk Proprietary Limited. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know that J.W. Volk have carried out a number of works for Council previously and to a very high standard, which is extremely satisfying. The works that are proposed, street works between on York Street between Foster and McAllister Street, so renewal of footpaths and some rehabilitation of the traffic lanes. They're part of a suite of works that are being completed along York Street, namely the underground power, the installation of centre median lighting between McAllister and Stall Street, and these works have been jointly funded by the Wellington Shire in conjunction with the federal government through the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Cities and Regional Development and Regional Roads Victoria. And we look forward to further works happening in this area, which will see the beautification of York Street along the Princess Highway for people travelling through Sale. The traffic lights that will end up going in at McAllister Street, Cunningham Street near the McDonald's and Gippy Hotel intersection will be a significant improvement for pedestrians and traffic alike. The other thing the key thing that we will see, or we have seen, is the significant amount of work done by our officers in securing the funding for this. So I'd like to thank our officers and also thank our federal local member, Mr Darren Chester, for his support of these projects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Tatterson. The next item on the council agenda is item 12.2, contracts awarded under the Chief Executive Officer's delegation. Council will recall that we moved a motion a couple of meetings ago for the two contracts in question to be awarded just for administrative reasons by the CEO. So there's now two recommendations there. Have I got someone to?
Councillor Bye is happy to move that, Mayor.
Please proceed, Councillor Bye.
I move that one, Council note that contract 2021-073, Seacombe Boat Ramp Upgrade, and contract 2022-001, Stevenson's Park Change Room Redevelopment, have been awarded by the Chief Executive Officer within budget under delegation by Council and item 2 as read.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Is there any opposition to the adoption of those recommendations? If not, I'll declare them carried. Just before I invite you to speak, Councillor Bye, the successful tenderer for the Seacombe Boat Ramp Upgrade was Carter Marine Group Proprietary Limited, and the successful tenderer for the Stevenson Park Change Room, the redevelopment, was RAL Constructions Proprietary Limited. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. As you just explained, we awarded the CEO after last council meeting. These two tenders were going to close, and we gave him delegation to actually award the tenders and keep them progressing. Just with COVID pulling things up a little bit short, we thought that'd progress them a bit more. So I'll go through the first one, the Seacombe Boat Ramp. People might go, where the hell's Seacombe? You actually access Seacombe from the Longford Lock Sport Road. Seacombe Boat Ramp is a pretty important cog to our boating strategy. It actually gives access into McLennan Strait. People might think McLennan Strait, what does that do for our lake system? It's actually a connection from Lake Wellington to Lake Victoria. It's actually a pretty little strait that when you come across Lake Wellington, you come through there. If there's any wind, it's sheltered, but it's a nice little area that you can go through on your boat, through to Lake Victoria and have a can meal at the Locksport pub. So it's quite a good little carriageway there. What work is entailed? We're actually demolishing and removing the existing boat ramp, and there's a design and construction of a new boat ramp, footpath and road approaches. And I think this is one of the last entry points to our waterways with upgrading boat ramps. I might be wrong, but we have done quite a few of those over the last few years since I've been on council, and it's pleasing to see that the Wellington Shire does upgrade all their boat ramps, because there is a lot of money that does come in from the boating and fishing industry. So that is the first tender that has been awarded. The second one is the Stevenson's Park Change Room redevelopment. This is a multi-million-dollar redevelopment. What it entails is the removing of the top story for better accessibility. Anyone that's been to that facility, there is a ramp that's the biggest I've ever seen. It's no longer complying to get up to that top story, and the steps to go up for the elderly or some without accessibility are very hard. So we're taking that top story off and basically removing, and we're going to have one building on one level. That building's going to be upgraded to existing change rooms to current AFL and Cricket Australia standards. We're going to add a multi-purpose room that is going to be used by baseball, and good to welcome back the Sale and District football umpires are coming back to the facility, which is great. They train on different nights, so they'll be able to share that multi-purpose room. We're also adding new netball change rooms to be female friendly, and umpires change rooms as well towards the netball court. Out the front, we're going to do substantial landscaping of the area in front of the change rooms and up to the netball courts. And this will be better aesthetics and also access and fixing problems with drainage as well at the same time towards the oval and what water does come out of the new building. One important cog to make this happen, I'd like to congratulate the Sale City Football Netball Club and the Longford Cricket Club. They agreed to use the social rooms that have always been occupied by the Sale City Football Club, and they come to an agreement where they could share that facility, and that meant that we could downsize a little bit the other social rooms in the building, and that was a great result to bring all the users together, and it's exciting to see in times what will actually happen. So RAL, as the Mayor mentioned, have won that project. They do quite a few, surprisingly, of our projects, and they're a great operator. They actually reside with a lot of their workers in the Wellington Shire, and it's good to see a local tender for something and be able to produce for the Wellington Shire residents. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Bai. The next item on the agenda is item 12.3, the Aqua Energy Redevelopment Detailed Design.
Mayor, I'd like to move that the matter lay on the table.
Yeah, so that matter 12.3 lay on the table. Councillor Tatterson.
Yes, I'd like to move that item 12.3, Aqua Energy Redevelopment Detailed Design, I move that the matter lay on the table.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tatterson. Do I have a second? This is a procedural motion, but we do need a seconder for this. Would someone like to second that, please?
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? If not, I'll declare it carried. Did you want to make any further comments, Councillor Tatterson?
Just a brief comment, Mr. Mayor, but we'd like to have the opportunity for further discussion around this very important project prior to awarding the detailed design.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Tatterson. The next item on our agenda is item 13 from the General Manager, Community and Culture with consultation on a number of our plans. Do I have a...
Councillor Wood.
Yeah, please proceed, Councillor Wood.
I move that the Council approves public release of the draft Early Years Infrastructure Plan and Sporting Infrastructure Plan developed under the Community Managed Facilities Strategy for Community Consultation.
Okay. And that also includes the Community Infrastructure Plan, Councillor Wood?
Yes.
So do we have a seconder for the recommendation?
Happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Is there any opposition to the adoption of the recommendation? If not, I'm happy to declare that carried. Councillor Wood.
Mayor, over the past 12 months, 3 plans have been developed: Early Years Infrastructure Plan, Community Infrastructure Plan and Sporting Infrastructure Plan. These plans are based on demographics of future demand and compliance of good practice requirements. There is a clear need to invest in these expanded facilities. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Wood, and we'll look forward to seeing what feedback we get from the community on all these important plans. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item 13.2, is the Wedge Masterplan Advisory Group membership.
Happy to move that there, Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Please proceed.
I move that Council 1 appoint the nominated community representatives to the Wedge Masterplan Advisory Group as detailed in the attached confidential report. The Wedge Masterplan Advisory Group membership and item 2 as read.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bye. Do I have a seconder for that recommendation?
Councillor Marr is happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? If not, I'm pleased to declare that carried. Before just calling on you, Councillor Bye, I'd just like to announce that the successful applicants for this membership on the Advisory Committee, there's Stella Ramage, Melissa Eldred and Darren McCubbin. So thank you to those 3 people for their interest. And Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a committee or an advisory group that I've been involved with right from the start. It was brought up that for this group to actually look at potentially doing a master plan and maybe further upgrades to the Wedge. It is a building that is showing a bit of age, but just seeing what the community needs were. There is nothing decided with that. We involved a consultant to work with the committee. It was all funded by, I think, state government, one of the organisations, and that committee, unfortunately, with COVID, did stop. There is 3 positions or 4 positions, 3 have been filled now. They've become available with people leaving the committee. So what we're solely doing here is replacing those members that have not decided to keep going. And then we'll continue the good work with our consultant to come up with some plans, some ideas. That will then come back to Council. Council then will decide whether we go ahead with those. But it's a great mix of people on that advisory group, and I look forward to continuing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Bye, for those comments. That brings us to a conclusion of the agenda items. The next item, the next issue is the further gallery and online comments. Mr. CEO, do we have any gallery or online comments today?
No, nothing in the chat room, Mayor.
Thank you very much. There is no need for us to go into closed session today that I'm aware of. Therefore, at this stage, that completes the meeting. And thank you for your attendance, and I'm happy to declare the meeting closed.